Hii kichwa ilikuwa imejaa usaha. Hata uwezi angalia kichwa yake.
They told us that she had an infection. So she had to undergo an operation on her thigh.
Alitoka juu ya nyumba. Huko tulikuwa tunaishi kwa gorofa, akatoka kwa gorofa. Akaanguka. Tukamleta hapa General, akawa hawezekani, tukampeleka Makadara.
One of the women just said I'll just quote it in Swahili. Ndo ule msichana mwenye uanguka.
I remember there was this one particular boy, ever since then. Alikuanga, we were this tight. Alikuanga akiniona anatema mate.
Sababu huku sehemu za kwetu wanaamini uchawi, so huwa wanaona ukianguka huwa wanaona ni uchawi. Wengine wanapata wanakukimbia. Naona ni kama jamii inahitaji elimu sana, kwa sababu naangalia katika ile hali ya kuwa mtu anakuwekea kiatu.
Why? How do I get epilepsy? And it's in my prime time. I was earning a lot of money.
The doc explained it this way. When I was a child, I got TB. Somehow it moved and got its way into my brain, but it was sorted out then as a child.
Mimi kwa jina naitwa Ismail Gobo Bule, babake Harun. Lakini mtoto wangu ya tatu. Kuna msichana mbele yake, kuna kijana ako class 7 anaitwa Musa. Msichana anaitwa Muslima. Wale ni wakubwa wake, na nyuma yake kuna wasichana wanne.
I'm Robert Mboya Frederick. I'm married. I have 5 children, Mercy being the last born.
Mimi naitwa kwa majina naitwa Margaret Mutano. Naishi hapa Sabasaba na nafanya kibaru. Nilikuwa nikifanya, maana sasa sifanyi. Ni mtoto wa sister yangu mdogo.
My names are Fred Kea and I am married. I have one son called Samuelito or Samuel. And I was diagnosed with epilepsy in 2011 while I was working in Iraq in a town called Basra as a pastry chef.
I'm Simon Kakawa. I've been a field agent because I did a field agent after my college.
Sam Kiwenda. I always wanted to be a psychiatrist. Right now, I do nothing that relates to philosophy or sociology, because that's what I did in campus.
Ramadan Duvela Nyongesa, photographer, and I have a business in Iran, a photography company. So under me kuna watu pia wenye wako under me, jobs nini.
And Jerry Mwangi is someone who just loves life. I wanted to be a journalist, but social work worked for me because up to date, I never trade that for anything else. I really love it. I really love it.
While I was in Iraq, I started having seizures and convulsions. But that time, I didn't know what was happening in my body. When I came back home, is when now my girlfriend had left me because she saw I had epilepsy.
I've lived with epilepsy for 28 years. When I was a child, I got TB, but it was sorted out then. Then when I was in standard 8, And the explanation that I was given was because of the stresses and strains of preparing for my KCPE. That's when I had my first seizure.
Alitoka juu ya nyumba. Huko tulikuwa tunaishi kwa gorofa, akatoka kwa gorofa akaanguka. Alipoanguka sasa ugonjwa ulianzia hapo. Kutokea hapo kuanguka kwa hiyo gorofa, akawa sasa ametibiwa hospitali, amemaliza, lakini bado akawa sasa yuanguka kila siku. Hii mdomo unaona, alikuwa akapasuka mdomo, akawa hawezi kuongea vizuri. Alikuwa akiongea vizuri Morris. Ni mkono tu ndio ulikuwa uko hivi. Nikamchukua sasa, nikaanza kumfuatilizia, kumpeleka hospitali, nikaambiwa ni kifafa. Si ndio nikakwambia, nikaanza kumpeleka General, akipewa hizo dawa zikakataa, azikawa aziendanishi na yeye. Kila akinywa bado ugonjwa ule.
She became a bit unique in the family, in the sense that she was so hyperactive. She went through KG1, and when she went to KG2, that is when we discovered that she had a problem. So we continued with that pediatrician until we discovered that there was very little improvement, and she was actually suffering because in a day she could fall not less than 10 times. In fact, the head was totally deformed. At first, what came into my mind is maybe somebody somewhere is bewitching her or what.
Hapo mbeleni nilipata shida. Nikienda hospitali, hata hola nilimleta, akianguka alipasuka mdomo. Nilimleta ikiwa na rewa hivi hola. Kaidungia kidogo, akaniambia peleka Garissa. Akaniambia zuie asicheke wala asifurahi. Kuna mtu anapenda kucheka. Nikamrudisha kutoka Holland. Nilikuja na ambulance. Nikarudi Bura. Kurudi Bura, jioni tu kufikisha nyumbani hivi, wale asubuhi walimuona, wamekuja kumwangalia majirani. Nikambili hivi kijana ashacheka na ashakata ile waya. Nikambili sasa nipeleke Garissa kesho yake tena. Kuja kaniambia story nipeleke Kenyatta nini. Nikamwambia mkate asoi itakuja kumea tu nyama. Mkate ile upande na rewa kabisa. Ipone hivyo. Sasa ile shida alinipatia. Na hiyo ugonjwa wote unaona hiyo kusio kusumbuka yote ilikuwa inaletwa na hiki kifafa tu. Sababu nilikuwa nimekaa tu, hakuna vile nitafanya mtoto. Mimi naweza pakuliwa chakula. Sasa unaangalia huyu hatawezi kula. Mara ndio amezimia na mpaka kizimia anakojoa, unaona tumbo imeshikana hivi, mtoto amekauka. Hauna dawa yote kwa mkono, hakuna chochote ambayo unamsaidia. Kama huko Tanariva kwa kwetu haipatikani kabisa. Hata hii dawa nikiambiwa nenda nunua tembe 2, huwezi pata na pesa. Paka usaidizi. Pengine nyinyi tumsaidia, lakini hata ukienda kwa chemistry gani huwezi pata vitu kama hivi.
It was difficult for those 3 years that I was in high school, and especially because no one understood me. Before completing high school, actually when I was sitting for my exams, I had so many seizures. So it never worked for me. I remember there was this paper and it was CRE. So I just wrote my name and slept. I never wrote anything. Yeah, I just wrote my name for you to just know that is my paper. Whatever you feel there, I don't care, but I really cannot write anything there. Yeah, so it's not because I didn't want to, but I didn't have the energy.
I'm a man, unafika age, you want to settle down, nini, because hawezi tell ukiniangalia niko na epilepsy. And you open up and you tell these people you think you found the one, and you talk and you open up. And they like you, like, wacha niseme umepita exam zote. And then, because this is kitu mi spendi kuficha, you tell them about it, nona. And for some reason the sexy dies. You see? So, or even worse, is that they sympathize with you, nona. So like, they start asking you awkward questions, nini, like, wanaacha kukutreat sasa kama mtu wa kawaida. Wanakutreat ni mtu hata nikaa huwezi jifanyia chochote.
epilepsy is a condition that presents with, I would say, unprovoked seizures. Now, seizures basically is just, in a layman's language, I would say loss of awareness, or something that may cause abnormal behavior, abnormal sensation, or abnormal movements. You know, that is what epilepsy is. So it can present in so many ways. It can present itself with abnormal behavior, as I said, and somebody can just probably, you know, stand up and start walking, or will pick up something, or it can present with abnormal sensations, you know, having visual hallucinations, you know, and that kind of thing. Or you may fall down and have some movements of upper limbs and lower limbs. Some of them will froth, some of them will bite their tongue, some of them will even soil themselves. Now, that's the epilepsy that most of the people, you know, understand. Epilepsy has so many causes. Anything that can affect the brain can cause epilepsy. So right from traumas due to accidents, due to fall from heights, you know, in non-traumatic brain insults, for instance, you know, infections of the brain like malaria, meningitis, encephalitis, and the common in our region is perinatal, you know, problems, you know, problems that happen during birth, you know, also as a risk factor for getting epilepsy. Tumors of the brain also can cause epilepsy, and there is also this part of epilepsy where, you know, you have a chance of getting it if your parent or your grandparent had epilepsy. So there's some aspect of hereditary in epilepsy, but a very small chance. Some research say it's around 12%, some research say around 20% if the mother and the father had epilepsy. And if the father has epilepsy and it's genetic epilepsy, then probably you have a 5% chance. If it's the mother, around 10 to 12% chance. Now, it depends. So many studies give different figures in regards to hereditary of epilepsy. So many types of epilepsy, so many syndromes of epilepsy, and the clinicians need to understand that a blank stare in a child could be 2 different types of epilepsy requiring 2 different medication, and that is what we tell the doctors. That is what we do when we go for trainings of the doctors. For the CHVs, okay, they will understand the symptoms and probably refer, but for the doctors, they have to know the medical, you know, diagnosis, or the syndromic diagnosis, if you like, for epilepsy. And we have reached many doctors, and we are seeing a lot of, you know, people going to the hospitals, getting very good, you know, attention. Not that, you know, we would really wish, but at least something is happening so far.
I became interested in epilepsy some 35 years ago when I joined the University of Nairobi as a postgraduate student and had interest in neurology. Epilepsy interested me largely because it was a very poorly understood topic, very poorly understood subject, and one that had a lot of shortcomings both in treatment and in community understanding. We identified as a problem with epilepsy management, the first one being availability of services. Availability of services in the sense that even though the services formally from the government are meager, the people seeking those services were not aware they were there. So we needed to create an environment where the 2 major stakeholders, the government, which supplies the facilities and the resources, and the consumers, who are the patients, needed to come together. The formal treatment of epilepsy has largely been left to medical practitioners of all kinds, from all levels of medical services. But we soon recognized very early on that the services are inadequate. The topic of epilepsy is not exactly marginalized, but it is ignored. Knowing the scope of epilepsy to be a very large scope, most medical students will have gotten only 1 hour of epilepsy training. So we thought to manage epilepsy properly, we must get the community views, the views of all cadres of healthcare, the views of the patients themselves, the views of their caregivers, the views of the sociologists in the community, and on all the way to the top tertiary level medical practitioner. And we realized this is a very difficult task, but one that can be attempted, and fortunately for us, we succeeded in forming a forum where all the stakeholders in epilepsy can come in and air their views, air their proposals, and be heard and feel that they are contributing to the care of epilepsy. We recognize this because caring for an epilepsy patient is a very protracted process, and it involves not only giving the medicine, it involves following up the patient in their homes, following the patients in their schools, following the patients in their community to see that they get assimilated in the community and become productive members of the same community. For this, we have had to overcome a few hurdles, and that's why the NECC was mooted so that we can harness all the expertise that are needed to manage epilepsy. National Epilepsy Coordinating Committee has all the stakeholders, big and small, all stakeholders representing all aspects of epilepsy.
My relationship with Angaza is, you know, when your wife comes to you and she tells you, honey, we're going to be having a baby. It's one of those feelings. When you know you are in that whole process. So basically, what I'm saying is, I was there from the beginning, from just before the beginning, when it was an idea that was being thrown around, and then it was solidified, and then it happened.
Angaza Kifafa once ilikuja Mombasa 2 years back na ikajaribu kuonyesha awareness concerning epilepsy, na nashukuru sana kwa sababu mimi nilikuwa recognized na nilipata kujoin the awareness. So after the awareness and after the trainings ambazo tulipitia pale, that's why I got the empowered. Nilikuwa empowered na nikaona kupitia hii ni vizuri pia nikuje na ile kikundi na niangalie tunaweza saidika vipi. Ili tuanzia sisi wenyewe na zile t-shirt ambazo tulianza kupewa, kwa sababu tulianza kuzionyesha katika jamii ya kuwa Angaza Kifafa. So watu walijua kuna kifafa ambayo naweza sema at the moment ni watu walikuwa hawatambui ni kifafa ni nini, unaona. So tulianza kufanya sisi awareness na watu walipata kuelewa kifafa ni nini.
So Angaza Kifafa has impacted my life positively yeah, positively, because I've been with them, I've gone through 1, 2, 3 roadshows, and I've seen how they do it. I would just pray over and over again that this thing really never ends. It just continues, even when everyone, the toddler is enlightened, yeah, it just continues. You know, it's like you've been taught, now you have to teach another. So when we are not here, at least we'll leave a generation that will teach, will continue the lineage. So from that level, I kind of now started to accept me the way I am. The acceptance didn't come easy. Yeah, it never comes easy. So it's a process.
To be honest with you, like assuming Angaza Kifafa was no longer there, trust you me, sijui mimi profession yangu itakuwaje. If I sit down, so ndio umeniuliza nimejaribu, by the way, assuming akunge kuanga na hizi road shows, unaona that first one ya Machako, where will I be? I don't know.
Mtoto nilisumbuka naye kiasi, kwa siku alizimia, na alizimia kwa siku mzima. Kupata nafuu kidogo tukaanza mambo ya kienyeji hivi, tukaacha hiyo hata kumfanyia madawa. Baadaye alikuja akaanza kuanguka na uso. Sasa nikamzungusha kuambiwa hiyo Kenyatta, mimi sikuwa na uwezo wa kumpeleka huko. Kabidi tu nirudi nyuma, niende nikaombe tu kama nitapata msaada. Sasa kuna msichana mmoja alikuja sensa huko kwetu Bura, akapata huyu na ndugu wangu akikaa naye jioni, akaulizia, akachukua namba ya ndugu wangu, kaenda akamwambia basi mimi nitatafuta wafadhili ambao watakusaidia hii ugonjwa ya tiba ya kifafa. Akaenda akaa, basi kwa siku akapata simu. Ile ndugu wangu alipigiwa simu ili ipatikane namba yangu, nikakimbia nikakuja nikapata namba Cecilia. Kwa sasa tukaongea na wewe, nikaelekezwa kwa Dr. Chengo Malindi hapa, na mimi sijawahi kufika hapa, nikibebana na yeye nikafika Malindi, nikisafiri siku mzima. Ile hali nilikuja na yeye, hata Chengo anajua, daktari anajua. Kwa tukimshika hivi, hata yeye mwenyewe ananisaidia, anakuja na kitanda tunabeba hapo kwa mlango, na nimetoka mbali, sio hivyo, nimetoka mbali.
Through the NEC, they were able to get some sponsors. The issue of Angaza Kifafa came in, which really helped him in his campaigns. And actually through that, we were able to get some medication.
I had an opportunity to watch an interview on TV, and the interview was talking about the first Epilepsy Open Day that had been organized by National Epilepsy Coordination Committee. Then, National Epilepsy Coordination Committee were running a campaign called Angaza Kifafa, which by large was being supported by Bank of Africa. So from Mombasa, I went to Nairobi to attend the Epilepsy Open Day, and I was lucky to get a doctor whom, after listening to my sister's case, was ready to do a fresh diagnosis on her and to put her under medication. So 6 months later, after we had started medication on our sister, a proper one, we saw a great change. We've been able to have conversations and dialogues with county authorities, especially the stakeholders in the health sector within the county and at a national level of how best can counties improve the epilepsy care in their respective hospitals, bearing in mind that we don't have so many specialists for epilepsy. In fact, in Kenya, we are talking of right now having only 2 epileptologists.
One of the main objectives of the National Epilepsy Coordination Committee, like I've mentioned, is actually to promote education and awareness about epilepsy in the country. And I think there is actually no better program to highlight this than the Angaza Kifafa campaign, which has actually turned out to be the flagship program of the National Epilepsy Coordination Committee. And I think if we are known at the moment, it is actually because of the Angaza Kifafa campaign. And I would like first to start by thanking the visionary people who started the initiative, because actually since its inception, we had a little bit of challenges about funding until the Bank of Africa came on board, and then they actually embraced our idea and our goal, and they have continuously funded us for the last 5 years, and that kind of long-term funding from them is not very easy to come by.
We actually had a brainstorm with the team, as the marketing team, and we wondered which is the best way to impact, or which is the best channel to enter into the community through health. Somebody just popped up and actually said, you know what, there's been a little bit of noise around epilepsy. Why don't we go there? And actually that sparked me. So in primary, I used to sit in front of a girl who was actually living with epilepsy, and it was a moment of not knowing what was going on. So we would find ourselves always getting disrupted. And that stuck in my head for a very long time. The hit came in terms of informing people about epilepsy. Immediately, and this is something interesting, immediately we did that, I actually got a call from a staff who actually lives with epilepsy. And she was very excited. And we have been walking the journey with her.
We usually have trainings even within, and I'm the one, like the branch I am in, I usually train them because Angaza Kifafa has made me learn a lot. I thank Bank of Africa for this opportunity and for getting out to make people know that epilepsy is manageable.
What happens is that we sit down with a team. This is both Bank of Africa, my team, and also NSCC, and actually look at areas that actually have high prevalence of epilepsy. I need to clarify that our objective is actually to go all across the 47 counties. I remember once when we went to Kisumu County, that's one of my, I would say that's one of my favorite caravans that I did. There was this old man who, for like 2 hours, when we were there, he did not stop dancing. But here is the most important thing. After all that, he actually came and told me that he actually understood the message and he will take it back home.
The success of the road shows and training of community health volunteers and medics has seen support groups made in various counties where we have been. And now caregivers are also understanding these people living with epilepsy. The entire community, the wider community, even through learning institutions, have come to embrace these people living with epilepsy. For the last 8 years, we've managed to train 640 CHVs approximately, who have referred more than 4,000 patients to clinics.
I like to say that I'm an old banker because I've been in this profession for quite a while. I think now it's about 26 years, if I'm not wrong, in banking. And the longest time has been with the Bank of Africa. Now, BOA is part of a larger group, a Pan-African bank, the BOA group. And BOA group has been, it's operating in 17 countries. But one thing that has been quite of interest to the Bank of Africa group has been on the CSR. It concentrates on 3 broad topics as far as CSR is concerned. One is health, the other one is sports and culture, and the other one is education. So on health, we usually deal with 2 areas of health. One is for maternal health, and then also on the epilepsy. So you'll find us quite strong on the part of epilepsy. And we chose epilepsy because it was an area where we saw was lacking attention. Epilepsy is, what most people don't understand is that epilepsy affects almost 2% of the population in Kenya. And internationally, the statistics are about 1%. Yet, we don't talk about it. And what we also noticed that there was a lot of stigma when it comes to epilepsy, such that it was a disease that seemed to be more confined in the closet. It's pushed behind there. Everybody's embarrassed about this thing. So we as a BOA, the area where we focus most now is on the awareness part of it. Once you create that kind of awareness, where everybody now is comfortable with this disorder, then you have more people supporting it, more people feeling comfortable to offer social support to people affected with it, and those also who are not seeking treatment. Once you understand that this thing can be managed, and even at times cured through surgery for certain types of neurological disorders, you'll find more people coming out. And that's basically what, as Bank of Africa, we try to do.
If you tell her today that tomorrow we'll be going to Malindi, then very early in the morning she would wake you up and say, yes, I'm ready. Can we now go? She cannot forget what you tell her. What we are happy about Mercy is when you communicate to her in English, she responds. Tell Mercy, come here, she would come. We feel encouraged that she's not badly off. At least we feel that there's still some hope in her.
Wataka TV? Boli. Atakunulia sokoni. Sasa anacheza mpira, usione hivyo. Akipata mpira anawezekana naye chana mzima. Hata wewe mwenyewe. Kofia ndio kitaka nitapewa nyingine ngoja. Mimi nitavaa kilemba, hii nitakuachia. Hii nitachukua. Kasida na rege.
Hapa niko na engineer hapa. Kwambia ile gari zinatengezangwa hapo. Ni vile tu haiwezi nguruma.
So I can say at the moment I'm a proud father, na hata pia kwa sababu niko na wife, nashukuru sana kwa sababu kwa watu wengi ambao wanatambulika wakiwa na kifafa huwa katika jamii wanaonekana ni kama sasa ni watu ambao hawawezi kuendeleza.
In the inside, no one actually believes that I do music, but I do. Yeah, I do music. Actually, I'm a music director somewhere. I love music, really do. And even in the church I sing. I mean, yeah, I sing, I direct music there. I mean, that, the alto voice. Yes. Yes.
Kuna msee alikuwa ameniambia manze huwezi toboa kwa industry. Feels awesome. Hiyo whenever I get that check, inaweza hata kuwa ni check ya 10k. Kwa msee mwingine, maybe videographer mwingine anaona, but the emotional attachment behind that check, only God anajua. Mungu tu ndio anaweza explain. I cannot explain because to me, and when unajua kuna so sema this is not about the money, and imekuwa ni kama cliche. Sasa tu akwambia I do this for the passion, I do this for nini, but it's not about the money. Mimi literally is not about the money. It's about proving a point to myself and to everyone else.
The Kisserem Epilepsy Foundation was formed in December 2017, and it is registered under the Societies Act of the Attorney General. What made us start the organization is that there was one time I was working as a researcher in Nairobi, and when I came home, I had an aura. So this aura, when I first had it, I assumed it, and I saw maybe it's not a real Caesar, maybe it's fake. So while I was continuing to walk, I really felt down, and I hurt myself, and I went to surgery. And while I was in the hospital, because I stayed there for 2 weeks, I told God that I will start something that to create awareness about epilepsy in my community, to try and help people with epilepsy and also empower people with epilepsy. So at Kisserem Epilepsy Foundation, we have 5 objectives that we do. Number 1, we are partnering with the National Epilepsy Coordination Committee to go to churches and schools and also to teach people with epilepsy. The second objective, we have an empowerment center. We help people with epilepsy, and they come to the school free of charge, and the other members of the community are the ones that are helping us sustain the organization. Why am I saying this? People with epilepsy, most of them, they don't have work. So if they are empowered and if they have certain skills, it will be really easy for them to be productive members of the society. The third reason, we do counseling. We partner with other organizations and go to the field to talk to people with epilepsy, tell them that this is epilepsy or this is mental health, this is not very serious, you can be okay and you are okay. The fourth thing that we do, we help more than 100 people in our community access the anti-epilepsy medicines.
My daughter is 11 years old. She's an awesome kid. She's an adult, I think. No, I look at her and it's all been worth it. I've been a DJ. I have managed a restaurant, digital marketing now.
I've seen kids who are otherwise denied opportunities to go back to school now being taken back to school. I've seen parents who had thought their children in their teenagehood and young adults could not do anything now look out for trainings which can fit them. I'm particularly happy because some of the youth I've mentored and those I've encountered in specific counties, I've seen them come to accept themselves, raise their self-esteem, realize that they are normal like any other people. And I'm happy because I've even walked some of them down the aisle because they now realize they could marry, they have gotten partners, and they are doing well. It's always a pleasure for me to be called by a youth living with epilepsy to go and hold their baby, and it's really been wonderful.
We actually do have the Epilepsy Day. So we normally have a lot of it's actually the day is blocked out. Yeah, it's blocked out, the whole bank. It's just about how do we disseminate this information. So we empower our own staff and actually ensure that even when you come to the branch, as much as we're doing business, we actually are creating awareness and letting you know more about epilepsy.
Our vision when it comes to epilepsy is to see at least Kenya at the start, just bring down the rate from the current 2% to at least bring it down to 1%. And I say that because almost 30% of epilepsy cases can be avoided.
So that treatment gap or management gap, when we started, was close to 90% in most developing countries. Over the years, we have been able to bring down that gap. And the last time it was looked at would have been 4 years ago, 5 years ago there, and it was 60%, which still means a lot of patients are not receiving adequate treatment, and that gap needs to be reduced further. We also address the gaps by advocacy and lobbying for one, recognition of epilepsy, knowledge about epilepsy to policymakers, primarily the government, lobbying for acceptable prices for medicines through drug companies, and I must say certain drug companies have been very helpful in reducing the prices for epilepsy medicine. And we also go through the administrative processes and administrative managers to make epilepsy activities acceptable in the society. The aim of all this is to reduce the gap so that through the government we can get resources upgraded, resources improved, which refer to the availability of drugs, the availability of facilities like equipment to diagnose epilepsy like EEG and MRI scans. Now we have largely managed to increase the number of EEGs. Now they may be approaching 30 in the country, which is a step forward, a very large step forward from the only one we had in Kenyatta, followed by the one that came in the Aga Khan in the days long gone. We managed to get the government and the WHO to include epilepsy medicine as a part of the essential drugs list, so that epilepsy medicine is available at all levels of government and public health facilities. Epilepsy can be treated and the person can be seizure-free in the large proportion of those treated.